So we'll finish the show with the Last Dance takeaways. Again, we had the Last Dance, the episode or the documentary of Michael Jordan last night. Episodes 7 and 8 were debuted, and at least right away, before the documentary was released, in the weeks leading up to it, Michael Jordan and his camp putting out some feelers, basically putting out some quotes saying that he's worried that a lot of people aren't going to understand Michael Jordan's competitiveness. A lot of people aren't going to really look at Michael Jordan in a good light coming out of this documentary. And this is really, 7 and 8 were supposed to be the 2 episodes that really dove into this. They really kind of pulled back the curtain and showed, for lack of a better word, what a bad guy Michael Jordan was supposed to be, or I should say, what a bad teammate Michael Jordan was supposed to be. Right? You have the story of him punching Steve Kerr in practice, which they got into. You have him, yelling at teammates, being tough to deal with, being tough to live up to the pressure and the standards that Michael Jordan constantly puts on his team in practice, in games. And this is supposed to be the 2 episodes. This is supposed to be the Sunday night where this really kind of delves into this and shows us that, wow, Michael Jordan was a great champion. Michael Jordan is a winner. He is the best basketball player to ever play the game. But a good guy, he is not. A good teammate, he is not. A role model, he is not. And I'll be honest, one of my first takeaways is I'm still kind of waiting to hate Jordan. Like, when are we supposed to, what is the documentary, what episode, what story are we supposed to look at and say, wow, Michael Jordan, bad guy. I changed everything of my perceptions that I thought of Michael Jordan before this. After watching this episode or hearing this story, he's a bad guy. I'm still waiting for that. Because if anything, I feel like each episode as it goes on makes Jordan look more and more likable. One of his biggest fears is that he didn't think people could understand why he was so competitive, right? People like me and you, we live our normal lives. We get excited, we compete, but for the most part, we're not driven crazily to accomplish X goal or do whatever we possibly can to make sure that this one outcome is the best it could possibly be. And he was so single-minded, so single-focused, so determined to win, just flat out win. Whether he was playing cards, whether he was playing a one-on-one game, whether he was even just racing someone to practice. Whatever you wanted to do, it was competition for him. And he was afraid that we really wouldn't be able to understand that and understand what made him tick. And with that lack of understanding, with that inability to relate to him of why he wanted to win so bad, it would maybe make us turn us off him, right? Maybe make us view him in a different light and then not be able to justify some of the actions that he had in order to try to get his teammates ready, which we'll discuss in a little bit, and make us lack understanding and make it seem like he's a bad guy. Now, don't worry, he had some bad moments, but for me at least, his legacy only increased. Looking at his mindset, looking at his intensity that he brought to every single day, despite being the most accomplished basketball player in history, despite winning 3 titles in a row, still wanting more. Despite winning 5 titles, still wanting more. Kind of like even more motivated than ever. I think it's pretty easy to relate to Jordan, to be honest. Now, me and you can never relate because, for the most part, we'll never be able to attain the level of success that he's attained in any field we accomplish. And for the most part, we have so much going on that we're unable to just solely dedicate all of our time to accomplishing that one task. But hearing him rationalize why he wanted to win, and then thus doing things in practice, working so hard. To me, at least, it makes sense. And one of the quotes I think that makes this perfectly is he said, you hear him get emotional too. We're talking about, how he was as a teammate. He demanded a lot of his teammates, yes. He held them to a higher standard, yes. But he never asked his teammates to do anything that he wouldn't do. He wasn't having unrealistic expectations for them that he wouldn't hold himself to. And he was working just as hard or harder. This is a guy trying to get everyone on his level. Not ask them to go move mountains while he sits back. Not ask them to do all these tasks where he just kind of rides the coattails and breezes through. He was doing heavy lifting. And with that, he just asked that a lot of his teammates be just as dedicated as him. So just to me, if that was supposed to make us hate Jordan, I don't really know what's going to make us hate Michael Jordan. Because, like I said, I've only respected him more. I've only really have him be more likable as his documentary goes on. So at least that was my first takeaways. I know we're supposed to hate Jordan at some point. He was very worried that the public wouldn't understand why he was so competitive, why he basically operated the way he did. To me, it makes all the sense in the world, at least. In watching this, it only makes him more likable. I haven't really seen too much feedback on social media, at least, that have people hating Michael Jordan. I think everyone's saying the same thing. When are we going to hate Mike? So far, it hasn't happened. I don't think episodes 9 and 10 are going to reveal anything that changes that. So Michael Jordan's legacy, I think, has only improved, and he's only gotten more likable, at least to me, as the documentary's gone on. Number 2, this also, especially episode 7, dives into why he took the break, why he retired initially after 1993, winning 3 fouls in a row. But you even hear the lead up, even before this episode, you hear how tired he was, how drained he was. And yet you have a conversation recalled that before the 1992 Dream Team Olympics that Michael was talking about, he would have retired after 1992 if he already won 3 in a row. If he didn't have to go win 3 in a row. He was so competitive. He wanted to be above the greats. Because you saw a lot of these guys, they won back-to-back titles. No one's won 3 in a row. He wanted to do that. He wanted to be that guy in that upper echelon to win 3 titles in a row and win the Olympics, or he would have retired in 1992. So I think it makes sense that you see when you have someone so motivated, so focused, so intense on just winning every single day, not winning a title, not winning a game, waking up and trying to look at everything he possibly can to just win in general. It's mentally exhausting. So he wins 3 titles in a row. He accomplished really the last thing he wanted to accomplish. He never wanted to win a title every single year. He wants to win 3 in a row because it hasn't been done by the greats. He wants to elevate himself above them. And in doing so, I think it makes sense that once he accomplished that, he needed a break. So I know there's rumors about whether it was a unofficial gambling suspension that David Stern wanted to punish him, but didn't want to, hurt the league. So he did it, said, just go away for a year and a half and then come back and we'll be all good. He wanted to tank the league or tank Michael Jordan. I truly do think that it was because he was mentally exhausted. He needed a break. And I know there's always this discussion as well. Oh, man, if Michael didn't retire, the Bulls would have won 8 titles in a row. There's no shot the Bulls would have won 8 titles in a row because you already hear how mentally draining it is to win 3. Whether the players that are on the first 3, the first 3-peat or the second 3-peat. You hear Steve Kerr talking about how draining that 3-peat was. And he flat out squashed any of those rumors that said the Bulls would have won 8 titles in a row if MJ doesn't retire. Because each year it got harder, the pressure increased to win. And that only put more pressure and made it even more difficult to win a title when you have all that riding on it. So I totally understand why he needed a mental break. And I think that helped the Bulls win 3 more. There's no way, no shot in hell the Bulls win 8 titles in a row if Michael never retires. He needed that mental break. And who knows, if he kept playing, who knows how many more titles the Bulls would have won. I don't think it would have been 6. I can promise you that. Maybe he ends with 4, maybe gets 1 more, maybe 2. But I don't think he gets 6 if he just keeps on playing and doesn't take a break midway through his career. Another takeaway I had, the third one, it's funny because throughout this entire documentary, the first 8 episodes, no matter what opponents do, right, it's impossible to not get Michael Jordan upset and to have him have a chip on your shoulder. Think about it. All these players, you hear Michael Jordan talk about hating or wanting to embarrass, for the most part, didn't do anything to him directly. And there's a few episodes or a few examples in these latest 2 episodes last night where you have the Bullets, Bradford Smith. One of the games he scored 37 points. After the game, he tells Michael Jordan, hey, good game. Didn't mean it in any, negative way. Wasn't trying to rub it in his face. He just, from what all the accounts were, genuinely said, hey, Michael, good game. Well, unfortunately for Bradford Smith, the next game, the Bulls were playing a back-to-back against the Bullets. That next game, MJ was determined to shut him out, to embarrass him, to get some revenge. And you know what he did? Scored 36 points in the first half. Not in the game, in the first half. He wanted to actually surpass Bradford's 37 points in the first half. He came short of that. He only scored 36. He was really slacking that night. But an innocent, good game turned Michael into putting a chip on his shoulder and trying to embarrass Bradford Smith as much as possible. And unfortunately for Smith, he was on the losing end of that as Michael dropped 36 in only the first half. How about you have B.J. Armstrong when he was a member of the Hornets, right? Hits a big shot in the playoff series to tie the series at 1-1. He's fired up. He's screaming. He knows that this is, a big shot. No one gave him a chance, and he's fired up that he had a big shot, had a great game to help his team win the game. Well, that's all MJ needed to get himself motivated. And the next 2 games, they blew the Hornets out of the water. Now, let's just say B.J. Armstrong didn't have as great of a series as he had in that game. So even if one player has a good game, screams, Michael used that as motivation to try to squash him, and he did that. And my favorite for sure. So these are, 2 examples of players having different approaches, right? Bradford Smith tried to be nice to Michael Jordan. Hey, good game, Michael. Boom, he used that as motivation, dropped 36 on him in the first half. B.J. Armstrong let his emotions fly. He let it known that, yeah, Michael, I didn't hit that big shot. I was the one who helped get this win for the Hornets, and you couldn't beat me. Use that as motivation. George Karl, I think, was like, all right, you know what? Out of sight, out of mind. He can't get mad at me if I don't say anything. They were at dinner when he was a coach of the Sonics the night before the final started. Michael Jordan was in the same restaurant. George Karl ignored him, didn't say hi, and Michael Jordan used that as motivation. So you don't have to talk to Michael Jordan. You can be nice to him and say good game. You can scream at him no matter what opponents did. It was impossible to not give Michael Jordan some sort of chip, some sort of motivation for him to get upset and have a chip on his shoulder and try to beat you as much as possible. So it's just funny that no matter, it was a no-win situation. Anyone who was going against Michael Jordan during that time couldn't do anything that wouldn't get Michael Jordan motivated to try to beat you. My fourth takeaway, so going back to, when we're supposed to hate Jordan, it's weird because I actually understand, and it makes sense, why Michael Jordan did what he did in punching Steve Kerr in the face in practice. And Michael Jordan, this is back in 1996, so Steve Kerr's new to the team, hasn't won a title with the Bulls. 1995, 1996, excuse me. And he wanted to get his team ready for the tensest moments. He realized that these guys, because they're new, they've never gone through the pressure that carries when you play with the Chicago Bulls, when you play with Michael Jordan. He wanted to make practice and training camp as intense as possible to make sure that they don't break in the moment. You have to be ready. You can't find out in the playoffs, in the finals, if these guys can handle it or not. You have to make sure going into those playoffs, going into the finals, going into the season, they can handle the pressure, and they'll be able to push back, and they won't have the pressure crush them. So one of the ways that Michael Jordan was trying to test Steve Kerr and test the rest of the team is by, trying to goat Steve Kerr, really yelling at him, really getting in his face. Steve Kerr pushed back. He punched Michael Jordan first. And then obviously that's when Michael Jordan unleashed the punch to the face. And it's interesting here. You have Steve Kerr saying after that brought him closer. Michael Jordan punching him in the face and Steve Kerr really fighting back, standing up to Michael Jordan first, brought them closer, and it showed Michael Jordan that Steve Kerr can handle the pressure, can handle the pressure of playing with the Bulls, with the finals on the line, trying to accomplish and playing with the greatest player of all time. It's interesting that, honestly, it makes sense that Michael was so intense, and it makes sense that he was really able to have an act like this happen, right? Rarely do you ever hear of players getting in a fist fight, a true fist fight where you get punched in the face and that ending well. I mean, you have in the NBA right now a rift beforehand of Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell on the Jazz. And you had that rift start because Rudy Gobert was reckless with the coronavirus, making the jokes, touching the microphones, and he gets it. Donovan Mitchell was upset because he thinks that he got coronavirus from Rudy Gobert and that Rudy Gobert wasn't taking it seriously. And from that he was the reason why, he also got coronavirus. So you have a rift just starting from that. Now, players have beef, and there was even some discussion for a little bit before apparently it was squashed that, well, if these two can't get along, one of them have to be traded. So it's very easy to have a rift start on a team and then basically be forced to choose one guy or another. It gets so contentious that it's so untenable that you have to move on and basically pick one player or the other. I would find it hard to believe if the Gobert Donovan Mitchell, let's say, feud got physical and Donovan Mitchell punched Rudy Gobert in the face or vice versa. I don't see how any way those two are on the team next year together. But in this case, again, Michael Jordan had a method for his madness, trying to get his team ready, trying to get the new players acclimated to what the pressure is going to be like when you step on the court as a member of the Chicago Bulls, trying to win a championship when the expectation is championship or bust. Get them ready for that pressure. So weirdly, you understand why Michael Jordan actually punched Steve Kerr in the face. And before that, you had no real context. But I think Steve Kerr explaining it, Michael Jordan explaining it, I think, weirdly enough, does actually make sense. And it kind of lends you into why Michael Jordan may be perceived to be a bad guy, but now, it does make more sense of what he was trying to do. There's a method to his madness. I thought that was interesting. My fifth takeaway, poor Scottie Pippen. Honestly, poor Scottie Pippen, because the thought and the worry from the Michael Jordan camp was that he was going to look bad. People are going to really change their opinions on him, and he's just not going to be portrayed as a good guy. I mean, if anything, Michael Jordan's been portrayed better than that. And I think Scottie Pippen's been the one that's kind of been portrayed as almost the bad guy.